Uh, okay, fine. So, Alyona, can you just share what have you been doing recently in language teaching or research?
Okay. So as for my teaching experience, I'm teaching English. I think of course, I've mentioned it. I told you that I'm an English teacher. I've been doing it for over 11 years. And in 2017, I pursued my master's degree at Bahçe University in Istanbul. I was doing it for 2.5 years. In 2021, I graduated, uh, full of inspiration to keep it up, to keep up my academic career. And I was engaged in the action research once. It was a part of my assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it kind of changed my life, my perception on research. I Before that, I didn't think that research could be implemented in a classroom. I thought it's more for academia and people who teach at tertiary level can only implement it. But then after I understood that actually it's feasible, it's doable for teachers who work in their own classroom, and they can do mini research and mini discoveries. They can explore their own classroom and find solutions for their own students. And it shouldn't be that global if they want to. If they, of course, they can publish it later on, but it doesn't have to be so much global.
Mm-hmm.
So, as for my context, I'm teaching. I'm a freelance teacher at the moment, but for 11 years, I was a teacher at school, at a private school in Turkey, and basically, I was covering the students between age 3.5 up until age 13.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, I had quite many classes, many students, and I was teaching in a position of a native speaker or native-like speaker
Great.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
at the at school.
Okay.
Yes, so could touch on. Maybe you can help me.
Yeah, sure, sure. We can share because we have similar context, right? We also have public and private schools, but I teach to the public school students. And can you just tell me how have you developed as a teacher in the recent years? Like you just said that you turned to be teacher trainer rather than being classroom teacher, right? Am I right? So you just changed your position. Are you still teaching in the school or you left that? Hello? Mm-hmm. Hello, hello. Stop. We are back now again. Uh, Thank you very much for sharing. Is it audible right now? Can you hear me? Alina? Mm-hmm. It is again stuck. I don't know what happened. Realized any problems while teaching online?
Well, I have problems with the internet connection for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At least recently, as you see, even now I have to reconnect. And of course, when we have to reconnect over and over again, it gives um, like poor impression on professionalism. The students' motivation goes down. You have to pick on from the point you left off,
Exactly.
and you kind of have to start it all over again. And sometimes, yes, some students get demotivated at this point. This is one thing. Another thing, when I'm teaching online, um, you don't well, you don't have maybe these strong bonds with the students, with the learners.
Mm-hmm.
You can only reach them out uh, on distance. They don't see you. They see only your face and probably, some parts of your body, and they can't really see your energy, engage with you as if it was in the real classroom. Can you
Mm-hmm.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly, clearly.
Okay. Okay, I'm just worried about the internet connection, and that's
Uh,
why I wanted to make.
okay, beside internet connection, have you faced other challenges or difficulties while teaching your students? What level of students you teach there? I mean, age group.
Well, right now I have different levels from A2 up until maybe B2. Even I teach English, and I have a group of Russian learners as well. So I
Mhm.
teach kids, and I teach adults. So
Adults.
adults too. So the problem I face is that I have too broad audience right now. I understand that I teach two different languages, and I teach both kids and adults, and I think I have to decide on my target audience and teach only them. And individual, I usually you teach individual classes. It takes quite a lot of time to prepare each of them,
Mhm.
because of course I use some sources and educational platforms that have ready online tools. But
Mhm.
for some learners, for some requests, I cannot find the sources there. For instance, some learners, um, they immigrate, and they have to meet an embassy and at an embassy to get their visa approved, and I have to search some regulations, how the questions which may be asked. So it's kind of very individual approach, and we read articles and the latest news,
Mhm.
and it will be used only once, and it will never be used with any other students later on, because we follow up recent latest news, and to prepare one lesson, it takes sometimes 2 3 hours for me, so it's really time consuming.
Mhm.
um, it doesn't happen with every and each student, thank God, but with some of them, as I've mentioned, yeah, it takes a lot of time when they do immigration. And at the same time, I also plan to. I'm an IELTS tutor, and when I prepare for IELTS, it's also a huge preparation. It takes a lot of time to look into to check their writings, to check their speaking, evaluate, assess it, and improve each skill. So the as a level goes higher, as deeper preparation it needs.
Mhm. That means
So yeah.
you just said that you teach to the immigrants, right? Immigrants, adults, those adults who come from
Uh,
other countries. You mean that?
Usually I teach to no, I usually teach to Russians who moved or plan to move abroad.
Oh,
Some Russians live in America, and they are there and they cannot communicate because their level of English is too low.
yeah.
Some Russians, they live in Turkey, and now they, let's say, they want to move to Portugal, and they will have a meeting at the consulate, and they have some procedures related to this moving abroad, and they need English to communicate. So mainly I teach Russians, but sometimes I teach Turkish people as well, and most of them want to move abroad. They want, even if or they travel a lot,
Mhm.
or they want to leave and move abroad.
It means English for academic purpose, right? Teaching, preparing IELTS. Academic or normal?
Academic and general.
General, yeah, general and academic. So your students, they what I understood is that they are the second language. I mean, second language speaker or foreign language speaker. Well, if they learn English as a second language, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I never like kind of understood the difference so well, like foreign language or second language.
Uh-huh.
To me, it's quite similar, isn't it? Maybe you can clarify the difference.
Oh, that means they might have already learned Turkish or Russian, and then they learn English as the second language. So I understood like this way. Yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
what is the particular area of difficulty while teaching to the adults? Uh, what types of difficulties while teaching writing, reading, listening, and speaking? Where do you feel difficulty there?
Well, firstly, sometimes I usually teach conversational English, but
Mhm.
besides that, yes, it takes time to um, eventually, of course, we face that they need some grammar as well, because they
Mhm.
can't really use the language without grammar, and I have to help them with grammar. And of course, just speaking is never enough. You have to do some reading to be able to talk about, to discuss, and you need to have some source of listening also to have a discussion upon it. So it's actually, although it's a conversational English, it's engage everything, and it has multi skills in the end. And to find the suitable resources that will be at maybe an I plus, a little bit higher, but not at the point that it demotivates the students.
Mhm.
Sometimes it takes time,
Yeah.
and with some students I see that, like, they want something challenging, but when it the time comes that they are doing something challenging, let's say they read the article and they don't read the latest news and they don't really understand it, they get disappointed, they get distressed, and they lose motivation,
Mhm.
uh, because that's beyond their level. So they want it, and I help them doing it, and they can actually comprehend it, but they maybe perfectionists. They want to understand completely everything, and they get like disappointed. Some articles are fine, some latest news they read in quite well, but some not. Yeah, and so it's really hard to balance the level of the materials.
Yeah, exactly. Very
It
nice.
shouldn't be too easy. It shouldn't be too easy. It shouldn't be too challenging. It should be at the point which can improve them, but on the other hand, that can
Uh,
not be too loaded.
yeah, great to hear. You just said that your students sometimes they get disappointed, right? Demotivated to read some articles while reading, and then uh, do they share with you, uh, or you just realize yourself they are disappointed or they are not easily comprehending the articles? Do you realize yourself? What do you?
I do realize when they get uh, silent or dumb, and
Mhm,
then
yeah.
they cannot answer my questions. I have to answer my own questions eventually. Yeah. So I realize it, and then at the end, of course, they usually tell me that it was too hard, the way too hard, and I say yes. So next time I'll try to find some simpler reading for them. But you know what? It's the source of the problem. I think some articles. It's not even actually about the level of the article, but about the personal interest of a student.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, the personal interest of the students, because sometimes we read really tough things, and these latest news are longer.
Mhm.
They may be double, but since it's related to their interests, they feel no tired, and they really understand. And on the other hand, as it's a recent event, they watched it in their own language first, and
Mhm.
they have some background information, so their schemata is active.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, yeah, interesting. I know I found interesting. So you just support them to read. What do you think? What may be the reasons that the students feel difficulty to read and understand some of the articles? What do you think? What may be the reason behind it?
The reason why they can't understand some of the articles, well, it may be the so as I have mentioned, it may be it's not usually what I see the reason is it's not around their interests. It's
Mm-hmm.
just something irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And a second reason, they have no background information. The schemata is not activated at that point.
Yeah.
So perhaps if I could activate their schemata better, uh, I could ask them more. I could prepare them more before reading. Maybe it would be easier for them to comprehend it later.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, maybe also by showing some short small videos or memes or something, and make them talk and discuss it. And the next, the vocabulary might be harder. Yeah,
Exactly.
perhaps the level of vocabulary may be really advanced for them, though if they have some background information about the topic, they can comprehend and they have no complaint about it.
Have you
Yeah,
ever
so I
asked
find three reasons.
have you ever asked your students what do they think? What may be the reason behind not comprehending the articles. Have you ever asked your students? There,
Yes, yes. We are doing it. This articles reading with one student, and that's the reason he told me. He said the vocabulary is too hard.
Mhm.
Or I cannot. He said I cannot. Um, I mean, I first need to have this word translated to my own language because because the explanation of this word is even harder.
Sure,
Is
sure.
even harder than the word itself. So I prepare everything. I have the definition of the word provided and
Mm-hmm.
an example, but an example along with the definition is so complex. He says it's even more complex than the word itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just using, direct method. I use no translation. So perhaps I just need to step back and to translate it into their own language,
Mm-hmm.
and that would work for them better.
You found that worked, that is strategy, right? It's great. So your issue in this case, your issue is why students can't read some of the articles well and understand, right? Uh, this may be
Yeah,
the
and
issue.
and
Yeah.
another thing,
Or
yeah,
your
sorry, and another thing he also said about the interests. He said I'm more interested in uh recent events and political events, something like this, which I try to stay away from.
Mhm.
But since the students like it, I feel like I have to use it. Although I try to stay away from politics, but he said he's into it, so probably I'll have to check some political news as well.
Of course. So in this case, your research question maybe how I can improve students' reading ability, reading comprehension.
Yeah, probably reading comprehension,
Mhm.
regardless their level, because the students' level is a B1, and we
Mhm.
have to read a C1 plus a native level article, the latest news article, let's say BBC News and things like this.
Yeah,
So yeah, I have to use some strategies for student to comprehend it, to understand it, and I I don't know whether I should pre-teach vocabulary, but if there are hundreds of unknown words, you can't pre-teach. I mean, of course, you can choose 10 and
yeah.
pre-teach these 10, of course. Or perhaps sometimes maybe it's better to come across it in the text
Uh-huh.
and kind of face it and see it in the context, and
Mhm.
then maybe to explain it. Perhaps this is better than pre-teaching it, because pre-teaching takes a lot of time, it's out of the context, and um, out of the context can be hard to understand. But when we come across it, and then if needed, if there is a request from a student, maybe I could explain it in a simpler way than later when we
Sure, sure.
come across.
I think you have come to the point because your problem is that your students can't read some of the articles, and then your then such question is how I can improve the reading comprehension level of my students, and then your strategy maybe you just said that maybe because of the lack of proper vocabulary, or maybe because of the lack of what interest, or beyond their interest, or maybe other reasons. You are just expressing your views. So that is also one way to explore our own perception, our own views. At the same time, it's better to ask our students what they think that we should teach them, or we can go to the students and ask them, and also we can observe our activities, what we do first and what we do second, like this way. Three things we can explore, and then only we can go for the change, right? This is how we can improve the situation. Mm, yeah, I think I covered everything. We had a very nice conversation. We have only 5 minutes time in this 40 minutes long Zoom. And if you have the link, you can send me in the same email, and then you can take it on to mentor me. Okay, I don't know
Okay. Okay.
how nicely I did. We can have
Thank you so
reflection
much.
later.
Yes, let's reconnect and talk a little bit.
Okay, sure, sure. Thank you very much.
I'm sending you the link. Mhm.
Thank you very much.